and I will be talking about exploratory testing. Because time is limited, first few words about myself. I work as a software testing consultant at Comic, which is located in Helsinki. And I'm also founding member at International Society for Software Testing. A fairly new organization is trying to advocate skillful testing. That's enough about them. If you have any questions afterwards, come talk to me or just use Google. Then I also want to thank Michael Bolton and James Bach. I had some conversations related to this topic and they helped me a lot. So just let that be known. Now, before we are talking about exploratory testing, we need to be talking about definitions. And by definitions, I mean the definition of testing. And the reason for this is that because my understanding about exploratory testing is highly based on how I see testing. And also when I'm talking about testing, you will understand what I mean. And this is not the universal definition, not the one and only, but I can find it reasonable. For me, testing is experimenting with something in order to evaluate it. This could be saying experimenting with the product in order to evaluate it, but I don't want to restrict your thinking to something concrete, like already written software. Because we can test ideas. From the moment there's the first idea about the product, we can test it. Important part about testing is evaluating. When we're making experiments and receiving information, if we don't care what that information is, we're not judging it, then in my opinion, we're not testing. We need to be some kind of way evaluating the correctness of the behavior. Now, testing is what it is, but there can be different missions. Most common mission behind testing is I'm just trying to find important bugs, but there are others. For example, when there's, let's say I'm testing a web portal, there's the first build of a web portal. At that point, I'm usually not trying to find all the important bugs. Instead, I'm just trying to see if it can work. Is it testable? I'm experimenting with something in order to evaluate it, but there's a different mission behind it. Now, the experiments can be boiled down basically to asking what if. What if I insert -1 to this field? What if there's a user logging in who doesn't have any privileges? Getting the answers, that requires all sorts of skills. If I'm asking, what if there's 5,000 users trying to log in simultaneously, whatever the simultaneous means in this, I probably need different skills compared to when I'm asking what if I'm inserting -1 to some specific field. So we need skills, or we need people, colleagues who have the skills to find out the answers. But then you also need knowledge so you can even ask the questions. Knowledge about technology, business domain, users. Only then you can ask the questions about the what if, what should happen. Now, basically it's boiled down to this. This is one of the reasons also when I go to a project, I try to learn as much as I can. About everything in the time I have available. Because then I will be able to ask those questions. It's also good to understand that testing is about mental engagement. When I'm evaluating the test process, I'm evaluating the mental process of testing. What happens on the keyboard, what documents are written, that's important, but there's some kind of thinking behind that. And when I'm trying to become better at testing, I'm trying to become better at that mental process of thinking all kinds of ways that the users can interact with our software. Just remember the mental engagement when we move to exploratory testing. Now, exploratory testing, I like to define it as an approach to testing that emphasizes testers' ability to explore an unknown object or space through concurrent test design and test execution. We can leave the concurrent out of here for now and focus on the first part. Now exploring, traveling through an unfamiliar area in order to learn about it. When we ask a question, get the answer or the information and evaluate it, then we are learning, we are exploring. Now I've underlined approach because exploratory testing is an approach. it's the way of looking at testing from a certain angle. And from this angle, we're emphasizing testers' ability to explore. Now, I've also underlined testers, because don't confuse this to a role of a tester. I'm talking about the person who is testing, and that can be anyone in the team, because exploratory testing is not something that is restricted to only for the people who are considered testers. You will learn more in few slides. Okay, there's other definitions, and I really want to mention this. Freedom and responsibility. This is a longer definition by Kem Gaynor. And there's one part. Emphasizes the personal freedom and responsibility of the individual tester to optimize the quality of his or her work. If we are given the freedom to think, freedom to approach the testing problem as the best we see, then we need to honor that responsibility by optimizing the quality of our work continuously. Basically, this can mean if we're doing some data comparison and we could be doing it a lot faster with a tool that we have the skills on, then we should probably do that, because it's our responsibility to optimize the quality of our work. Or if we are testing with the test data that could be improved, so it would give us more information about the product, then we need to do it. Of course, we will consider the opportunity cost, what it will take the time away from something else, but we need to have this process, thinking process. Now, I think this is related to what Brian Marek, one of the authors of Agile Manifesto, has said. At the end of each iteration, each team member should be able to say why she is worth more money to her employer than she was at the beginning. This is from a paper called Two Forgotten Agile Values, Discipline and Skill. I have the link later. And this applies to exploratory testing. We need to optimize the quality of our work continuously, so we will be able to explain why we are more worth money now than we were a month ago. I mentioned earlier the concurrent test design and test execution part. I think this is a powerful metaphor for that. Brett Victor has this essay called Learnable Programming, where he's describing what are the good elements of a programming environment. And this explains the concurrent test design and test execution well. I will read it because this is important in two ways. Most musicians don't compose entire melodies in their head and then write them down. Instead, they noodle around on an instrument for a while, playing with patterns and reacting to what they hear, adjusting and sculpting. An essential aspect of painter's canvas and a musical instrument is the immediacy with which the artist gets something there to react to. A canvas or a sketchbook serves as an external imagination, where an artist can grow an idea from birth to maturity by continuously reacting to what's in front of him. Now, when I'm testing, I get an idea, what if? Then I'm interacting with the software, I observe how it behaves, I'm reacting to what I see. You could say that the product is my external imagination. I cannot come up with the best ideas only on my head. I need to interact with the software, and through that continuous process, loop kind of process, I get to the point where I have a really good idea what is a major threat for our product. Now, I said two ways. This is two ways important because lately I've been trying to learn Python on Code Academy, and natural part for that is just creating functions. So when I'm trying to create a function with the most simple argument, most simple way, I'm writing a piece of code which will hopefully make it. I run it, I observe how it behaves, maybe I made some adjustments, then I run it, I observe, okay, now it works with the most simple argument. Then I think, I'm reacting to what I see. What other arguments could be problematic for this function? Maybe I add an elif there, and then I check how it works with that argument. Again, I'm observing how it behaves, I'm reacting, and continuously trying to make the function better. I think We are exploring, we're asking questions, we're learning, and we're also evaluating. We're putting some kind of judgment on the correct behavior of the function, which means we are exploratory testing while creating a function. And this is important to remember. Now, summarizing. Exploration, freedom, responsibility, mental engagement, experiments. So what? What's the big deal? Why am I talking here today? One of the big reasons is that most bugs are not obvious. They're not out there in the open. They're not found by following a script or walking the happy path. They hide all over the spaces that tend to be big. If we want to have chances in finding them or preventing them, because we're thinking often there are bugs in our mind, as Laura Kosavic was telling earlier, then we need to become good at exploring. And the process I'm doing, often on the higher level, can be related also on the code level, because that's also exploratory testing, if you can relate to earlier metaphor. That's why I'm here today. Okay, there's all sorts of sources of information here. Here's also the leprechauns of software engineering by Laura Kosavic, which I totally recommend that everybody will read, because that will change your thinking toward anything that is said to be a fact, statistic. You will search for data after that and think about the truthfulness of it. But there are others. If somebody is familiar with Lego Mindstorms, there's a book, Mindstorms. Lego Mindstorms was named after this book. And according to Brett Victor, this book is the best book about learning. I don't know, I just started reading it. I have it with me if somebody wants to check it out today. All kinds of different sources that I think have helped me in becoming better at exploring and asking the questions. Now is the time to discuss.